It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Despite the lack of a deal, Putin calls the Alaska summit very useful, as Trump says he now backs a complete peace treaty rather than a ceasefire. President Zelensky will travel to the White House on Monday after he and European leaders hold a meeting of the coalition of the willing. Also ahead, more than 300 people are killed in flash floods and landslides in Pakistan, with dozens more missing. Topshop returns to the High Street and to a Trafalgar Square catwalk. In sport, wins for Manchester City, Sunderland and Spurs on the opening weekend of the new Premier League season. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30. Good evening. No deal was done in Alaska last night, but Vladimir Putin has tonight insisted his summit with Donald Trump was very useful. That may be because the US president is now echoing the thoughts of his Russian counterpart, insisting he now wants to see a complete peace deal rather than a mere ceasefire, and that it's up to Ukraine's president to get that deal done. Volodymyr Zelensky will once again brave the lion's den as he returns to the White House on Monday for an audience with Mr. Trump. In the meantime, his forces are still fighting, claiming tonight to have advanced 2 kilometres in Ukraine's Sumy region. In a moment, we'll get reaction from Kiev. But first, our US correspondent, James Matthews, has this report from Alaska.
Of all days, this was one to define Donald Trump's presidency. The protagonist duly arrived at an Alaskan military base. For the Russian with blood on his hands, there was a red carpet welcome as the pair came together on the tarmac. This was a superpower moment, with the smile and the shake of men who hold peace in their hands. There was no doubting the warmth of the welcome that extended to a military flypast. But before the waiting media, it didn't stretch to questions answered.
President Putin, will you stop killing civilians?
Putin gave a deaf ear to questions about a ceasefire and civilian deaths. His host took him away from it all in Cadillac One, the beast no less, where typically only US presidents travel. Putin looked a man feeling the luxury and the love. The talk had been of a one-to-one meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It expanded to 3-on-3. Trump, flanked by his Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Untypically, there was no question and answer from the US president as he sat down with his guest. While discussions took place behind closed doors, there was a small pro-Ukraine demonstration at the gates of the base. Inside, after 2 hours 45 minutes of talks, they were over.
Our negotiations have been held in a constructive atmosphere of mutual respect.
We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir.
Mutual respect had clearly been the feeling in the room, but the pair didn't feel their way to a deal.
We haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal.
I expect that today's agreements will be the starting point, not only for the solution of the Ukrainian issue, but also will help us bring back business-like and pragmatic relations between Russia and the US.
There wasn't a single mention of the word at the heart of the matter, ceasefire.
We had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there.
Vladimir Putin had spoken of a starting point for a Ukraine solution, but he laid the ground for failure and laid the blame early.
We expect that Kiev and European capitals will perceive that constructively and that they won't throw a wrench in the works. They will not make any attempts to use some backroom dealings to conduct provocations to torpedo the nascent progress.
Neither man took questions at this news conference, and there were many to be answered, although not on their strengthening relationship. That spoke for itself.
Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all.
Vladimir Putin is the man of war talking peace, but his version doesn't translate well in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin made a point that doesn't bode well for a peace deal. He said that to make any deal lasting and long-term, it would need to eliminate Russia's primary concerns. Moscow has long wanted Ukraine to drop its desire to join NATO, to limit the size of its military, and Russia lays claim to Ukrainian territory. Selling the Putin case to Western allies and to Ukraine will be a most difficult sell for the deal-maker president. How it flies with Ukraine and Western allies is now the question, the men of most influence having left the stage. This was a historic meeting on peace, Alaska baked. Donald Trump is a president now working through the debrief diary, with Zelensky marked down for Monday. James Matthews, Sky News in Anchorage, Alaska.
So as James says, in just 2 days' time, Volodymyr Zelensky will be back in the White House, the scene of February's infamous confrontation with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Ahead of Mr. Zelensky's return to Washington, our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn, has been getting the opinion of people in the Ukrainian capital.
In the sunshine in Kyiv, they're absorbing the news. They've had hopes raised so many times, then dashed as diplomacy turns full circle over and over again. But events in Alaska seem of a different order.
Honestly, it was a disaster. It's a diplomatic failure in the first place, and it shows that Trump inviting and greeting Putin that way just shows that he legitimizes the war crimes, he legitimizes the kidnappings of children. It's just like 1938 when Chamberlain basically sold off Czechoslovakia, and this is basically what's happening now.
How does it make you feel about the future of Ukraine, the future your son will?
Yeah, he is one of the people that will make a future of our country, and I want to hope that it will be in prosperity, in peace, in independence, and not being, prescribed to Russian army.
It's a major change in Trump's stance since the meeting with Putin that is causing most concern. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump says the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement, which would end the war and not a mere ceasefire agreement. Donald Trump has, for weeks, been demanding an immediate ceasefire from Vladimir Putin. He has now, it seems, shifted to Putin's position, which is no ceasefire until a full agreement is struck first. That makes it a much tougher challenge for President Zelensky as he prepares in his offices here to fly to Washington. Is he about to be told to negotiate with Vladimir Putin while Russian forces are still killing his people? Donald Trump sat on the tarmac on his return after the summit, calling President Zelensky and European leaders. Ukraine's leader tweeting afterwards, he told Trump sanctions should be strengthened if there's no trilateral meeting or if Russia tries to evade an honest end to the war. Europeans agree in a statement, Britain's Prime Minister saying the next step must be further talks involving President Zelensky. The path to peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without him. On his return to Moscow, Vladimir Putin claimed the summit was a success.
I repeat once again, there was an opportunity to state our position again calmly and in detail. Of course, we respect the position of the American administration, which sees the need for a speedy end to hostilities. We would also like this, and would like to move on to resolving all issues by peaceful means.
The fear here now is months and years more of this. Relentless Russian drone attacks, like the one on a residential part of the town of Sumy on the day of the summit, just a few hours before. Ukrainian MP Yaroslav Yurkishin says there is bitter disappointment at Trump's failure to stand up to Putin.
Trump, who can be a leader real leader of peacemaking process. Now just give highest war criminals to time to kill more people in Ukraine.
Russia released more footage of its forces in action today. Whatever the politicians say, Ukrainians will remain at the mercy of Vladimir Putin's aggression until diplomacy prevails, which to them now seems an even more distant prospect. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Kyiv.
Volodymyr Zelensky has posted on social media tonight saying the situation has been complicated by Russia rebuffing numerous calls for a ceasefire and not yet saying when it will stop the killing. Before he heads to Washington, Mr. Zelensky will hold a virtual meeting tomorrow with European leaders, including Sir Keir Starmer. In a moment, we'll hear from our political correspondent, Liz Bates. But first to our Moscow correspondent, Ivor Bennett, who's still in Anchorage for us. Ivor, how's the summit likely to have gone down in Moscow?
Well, the reaction in Russia is nothing short of triumphant. Officials, the state media, they are crowing at what they see as a clear victory for Vladimir Putin. A lot of the coverage is focused on the warm welcome he received, the flypast, the red carpet, the ride in the back of the presidential limo nicknamed the Beast, because in that moment, 3.5 years of Western attempts to isolate Vladimir Putin were completely shattered, and Moscow really seems to be reveling in the consternation that has caused in Europe. Just listen to what the spokeswoman for the Foreign Ministry has had to say, Maria Zakharova. She has accused Western media of being in a state of derangement verging on complete insanity. It wasn't just the optics that Moscow has owned here, though. It was the whole lot that has belonged to Vladimir Putin, because he has appeared to convince Donald Trump to see the war through his eyes. Before the summit, Donald Trump was demanding a ceasefire and threatening sanctions on Moscow if it didn't agree. But afterwards, there was no ceasefire, there were no sanctions, only a path to peace on Putin's terms, which is a settlement first, ceasefire later. We still don't know the details of what they agreed and what they are proposing, but reports suggest that Vladimir Putin has agreed to freeze the front lines in some parts in return for full control of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, which is a territory Moscow still only partially occupies. Either way, Vladimir Putin has what he wants, which is the outline of a deal on his terms, and all the pressure now on President Zelensky to agree.
Liz, let's bring you in. Sir Keir Starmer saying that Trump's efforts bring us closer to an end to the war. Tell us what's happening tomorrow.
Yes, well, what you see, first of all, there from the Prime Minister is him once again in this quite precarious position where he's trying to be a bridge between the US and European leaders and President Zelensky. And you saw that in the statement today, praising Donald Trump on one hand, saying he should be commended for his efforts. On the other hand, showing solidarity with President Zelensky. This is all ahead of a meeting tomorrow with what's known as the Coalition of the Willing, this group of countries thrown together in the wake of Donald Trump really pulling NATO support when he returned to office. These are countries that have been asked to put whatever they can in terms of military resource on the table to try to put together some kind of peacekeeping force for the future. Now, what they will be talking about, first of all, is how to handle Donald Trump and the aftermath of that meeting in Alaska, as he seems to be drifting closer and closer to President Putin. That will be top of the agenda. Alongside that, they will be trying to push for confirmation of some type of US security guarantee to underpin any peacekeeping force. They've long thought that that is the only way to stop Putin breaking the terms of a deal and continuing to try to take territory in Ukraine. Another issue, of course, try to bring President Zelensky back to the centre of these talks about the future of his own country. He's been hugely sidelined over the last few days. But of course, as always, in Downing Street and among European allies, all eyes on the man with the most power in all of this and what he plans to do over the next few days, and that's Donald Trump.
Liz and Ivor, thank you both. And Ivor featured in today's Trump 100 podcast, along with our US correspondents Martha Kellner and James Matthews, where they discussed the optics of the summit and who had the upper hand. And if you scan the QR code on your screen right now, you can listen to the latest episode of the Trump 100 podcast. You can listen and follow Trump 100 for free wherever you get your podcasts from. Other news now, and entire families have been swept away in flash floods in northwest Pakistan. More than 300 people have died and hundreds of rescue workers are still searching for survivors in the country's Buna region. Katerina Bertozzi reports.
They're using what they can to get to safety. Flimsy ropes are all that stand between them and being washed away in these floods that have killed so many, destroyed so much. Hundreds have died across this region of Pakistan, triggered by intense rainfall known as cloudbursts. Flooding swept through villages like this one. Huge landslides have crushed anything in their path. Whole families have died.
There were about 30 children, men and women. They were all swept away in front of me, and my brother was among them. The whole house was destroyed.
Hundreds of rescue workers are still searching for survivors across the region, known for its mountainous landscape and sweeping valleys. One of the worst hit areas is Buna, where floodwaters swept away dozens of homes. Search and rescue operations began on Friday. Teams are also focusing on the villages of Pir Baba and Malikpur, where the floodwater came in faster than people could escape. In a local hospital, families have come to support the injured and take home the dead.
We rescued as many people as we could. The speed of the flash floods then increased, and then rescue teams started their operations. And with the help of the locals, we rescued people. Relatives have identified around 130 bodies at the hospital, which have been handed over to the next of kin.
In Indian-controlled Kashmir, dozens have died as water thundered through this popular Himalayan pilgrimage route, sweeping away vehicles. The Indian government says they are prepared for further casualties. Diggers are being used to help clear debris and look for victims. The Indian government says they're expecting the number of dead here to climb. The Pakistani government has declared the worst hit areas official disaster zones, with forecasters predicting more rain to come. Katerina Bertozzi, Sky News.
A woman believed to be in her 20s has died in East London following reports of a serious assault. Police were called to Chadwell Heath along with paramedics who pronounced the woman dead at the scene. A murder investigation has been launched, but no arrests have yet been made. A 47-year-old man who was removed from Anfield Stadium last night has been arrested by Merseyside police after reports of racist abuse towards Bournemouth player Antoine Semenyo. Play was stopped when the comments were allegedly made during the 28th minute of the Premier League match between Liverpool and Bournemouth. Britain's last surviving Second World War Victoria Cross recipient has died at the age of 105. Flight Lieutenant John Cruikshank from Aberdeen received the award for bravery during an attack on an enemy submarine that left him seriously injured in 1944. The RAF captain's family say he died last week and a funeral would be held in private. Hundreds of pro-Palestine protesters gathered outside an airbase in Buckinghamshire today, calling for an embargo on selling arms to Israel. Demonstrators chanted and held banners along with the barbed wire fence of RAF High Wycombe. It came as Britain's human rights watchdog warned against heavy-handed policing amid recent demonstrations over the war in Gaza. Our crime correspondent Martin Brunt reports.
Last month in Kent, police confronted a pro-Palestine demonstrator.
So do you support any prescribed group? I do not support any prescribed group. I support a free Palestine and the end of genocide.
The protester had a Palestine flag and signs calling for a free Gaza and accusing Israel of genocide. What the protester, Laura Merton, said she didn't have was anything indicating support for the group Palestine Action, which had been proscribed, banned as a terror group a week earlier.
If you don't provide us with your name and address, those are necessities for us to arrest you for offences against terrorism acts for being part of a prescribed group.
Laura believes the police were treating her like those who clearly demonstrate support for the banned Palestine Action Group. In London, a week ago, more than 500 were arrested. Laura's treatment in Kent has prompted a warning from the Equality and Human Rights Commission. It comes in this letter to the Home Secretary and Scotland Yard's Commissioner. It's a warning to all police about the twin challenges of upholding the law and ensuring people's right to protest. The watchdog's chairwoman, Baroness Faulkner, wrote, "Heavy-handed policing or blanket approaches risk creating a chilling effect, deterring citizens from exercising their fundamental rights to freedom of expression and assembly through fear of possible consequences." The watchdog urged the Home Secretary and police chiefs to ensure that all officers receive clear and consistent guidance on their human rights obligations in relation to protest.
If there is an escalation in Israel's actions in Gaza, I should imagine there'll be more and more demonstrations. So it's absolutely essential that police officers understand the legislation, they're aware of what demonstrators can do and can't do, and we need to be prepared for more demonstrations against Israel.
In Buckinghamshire, at a demo against the UK's arming of Israel, there were mixed views on the policing of such protests.
I think they've always been heavy-handed. They've just been more prominent now.
Overall, their handling has been pretty good, really, I think. I mean, a lot of people won't agree with that, but it's a difficult job for them to do, isn't it?
Other forces in other parts of the country have really misunderstood and have reacted in ways that were totally inappropriate.
Laura Merton is suing Kent Police over their treatment of her. The Home Office said it fiercely protected the right to protest, but that was quite different from showing support for the banned Palestine Action Group. Martin Brunt, Sky News.
Time now to catch up with all of the day's sports news with David.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Manchester United fans look likely to see a lot more of their new American goalkeeper over the course of the coming season. His new manager is already happy to contemplate playing Tim Howard as his first choice.
Well, I think the important thing is that Tim will be given the opportunity.
People who love soccer there in America can't fathom what Manchester United is really all about.
There was probably too many mistakes in all of them, whereas they hadn't been used to that with Schmeichel. Whether the pressure was too much for them, whether what was in front of them wasn't as good as it had been, it's hard to know, but there were poisoned chalice at the time.
In the beginning it wasn't really that important because they still won the next Premier League. It was only at some point where it began to be a problem where you think, you know, to win that trophy you need strong people in every position. The brief for the Man United goalkeeper is always to win 10 to 11 points. These are not my words, these are the manager's words.
It was a massive task to fill his void, and I think they felt the weight of that on the shoulders because everyone was compared to Peter.
I was actually on the brink also in '99 when I signed for Juventus. I think we had a more or less verbal agreement. I got a call from Manchester if I wanted to come over the next day. And at that time was still, I think, before they won the Champions League. I was already done and dusted with Juventus, so that's why I signed there and didn't really expect, to be fair, to come to that level again at such a late stage in my career.
When I was out socially, I was getting a little bit of stick from United fans saying, how come he's in here and how come he's in there? And I don't want to go into names because it's not fair. But I went to Sir Alex and I said, listen, if we're going to bring a goalkeeper in, let me decide who it is. And he looked at me and he went, are you sure? And I went, well, I'm positive, because I'm the one that gets all the stick out there when I go for a pint. I went, so let it be on my shoulders. And he went, right, I'll leave it with you then.
It is a bitterly cold evening at Craven Cottage, but in recent times Fulham have had results to warm the spirit against Manchester United.
I'd known about Edwin for a long, long time. In fact, when I was at Sunderland, he was in the Ajax team that come and opened the Stadium of Light. I'd watched every game that he'd played for Holland. I watched his move when he went to Juventus. And then he came to Fulham, and I always thought, no disrespect to Fulham, but I always thought he was bigger than Fulham. Go into the manager's office after a game and speak with their staff and either say well done or hard luck or whatever. Chris Coleman was in there and his staff, and obviously the goalkeeping coaches or ex-goalkeepers gravitate to each other. So me and Dave Besant are having a beer and having a chat, and I just asked him outright, I said, what's Edwin van der Sar like to work with on a daily basis? And it was a glowing tribute to Edwin. So I took it all on board, and then he said one thing that just resonated with me straight away and got my taste buds tickling, was the fact that there was a $2 million buyout clause in his contract, and he was worried somebody was going to come and get him.
Thanks, Bez. We lost our world-class goalkeeper by you divulging that, but we'll let you off with that one. It's a saying that I've heard from many of the coaches who I've worked under. You can't hate good players, you can't hate bad players, and Edwin was a top.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
The fashion retailer Topshop is launching a high street comeback and marked the return with a catwalk show in Trafalgar Square today. In the 1990s and 2000s, its shops were a world of music, makeup and fashion. But its physical stores all closed 4 years ago after its parent company, Sir Philip Green's Arcadia, went into administration. Sky's Sadia Chowdhury has been looking at whether nostalgia will help make the new Topshop a success.
It should cost $1 billion to look this good.
Strutting down a runway on London's most famous square. That's how Topshop celebrated its relaunch. This is its first catwalk in 7 years. Show-stopping gowns, the classic white tee, and essential winter knitwear. Or maybe that's a hat. And if all this feels like the 90s, that was part of the plan.
It was like nostalgia mixed with something like eclectic, but also so brand new.
Topshop's relaunch comes as the high street continues to struggle, and as the Chinese fashion giant Shein announced pre-tax profits of £38.3 million for the year, up some £14 million from 2 years ago. But Topshop says it's about keeping things British.
We are a British brand. We want to be a positive force of British fashion. We want to bring London to the world, and that's why we chose this backdrop.
The majority Danish-owned company suggests fashion is slowing back down, with the opening of UK stores where customers can touch, browse and try things on again.
They can't rely on their old customers to do that, because their old customers have now got kids of their own to spend their money on, and they've got mortgages and all of those things of what being an adult means, all of those extra burdens, financial burdens.
On Carnaby Street today, mixed feelings about a Topshop return.
If it's the same as it was when it went away, like if it's the same vibe, then definitely go back.
It was quite key in the market, I think, at that time. And when it went to ASOS, it wasn't the same, being able to go in and browse for loads of stuff.
And one customer who's already moved on.
I feel like fashion is really different to when Topshop was around. We're not reading magazines to get our fashion input anymore. It's much more instant.
Fashion is fast, and now it's brands that need to keep up rather than the customer. But Topshop's Trafalgar Square party suggests it's getting ready to give the high street another go. Sadia Chowdhury, Sky News.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. When we come back, I'll be joined by political journalist Theo Usherwood and Alicia Fitzgerald. Amongst the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front of the Sunday Telegraph, their headline, Trump supports Putin's land grab. We will be right back. Do stay with us.